Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. Days after carrying out airstrikes on a Jaish-e-Mohammed training camp in Balakot, Pakistan, the Indian Air Force has reportedly presented to the government radar and satellite images showing bombing of the intended targets. The Indian Air Force collected these satellite imagery from independent sources to assess the impact of its operation. The satellite imagery shows S-2000 laser-guided bombs hit the intended targets, causing significant internal damage. The move comes amid conflicting reports on the extent of damage caused in the Balakot strikes and the clamour among opposition parties seeking clarity. Today in Depth, we talk about the importance of satellite imagery in military operations, how the military is using satellites worldwide for remote sensing and surveillance, and how many military satellites are in use currently across the world. We also look at the series of advanced remote sensing satellites that India is using at present. Military satellites are used for several important functions, which include research, meteorology, and geodesy, in addition to reconnaissance. The military satellite market is currently estimated to be around $15 billion. It is expected to flourish in the upcoming years as well due to increased demand for satellite intelligence the world over. Military satellites are designed for surveillance and reconnaissance. They provide information on enemy forces and their capabilities. Also called spy satellites, they are used for military observation missions, like for instance, monitoring nuclear test ban compliance. They observe the deployment of military forces and keep tabs on weapons development, assess damage caused by bombs, and provide intelligence about enemy capabilities. In addition, military satellites are used for remote sensing, analyzing, and recording information about the Earth's surface. They come handy in geodesy, which is the study of the Earth's shape with eyes, as well as research on weather and weather conditions. The best example of a military satellite is the Vsat GPS, navigation, signal, timing, and ranging global positioning system. Operated by the US Air Force, the Vsat GPS contains an accurate and reliable satellite navigation system that determines the position of military forces on the ground, air, or sea. More than 20 of its spacecraft provide worldwide coverage, including the North and South Poles.
They allow you to have a 24/7 visibility in all sorts of weather and terrain conditions.
So how they are much more helpful in surveillance?
These satellites, particularly the surveillance satellites, are low Earth orbit satellites which are in a polar orbiting satellites. So these satellites do not have a 24/7 visibility of a particular arena. These satellites move from pole to pole. So at a particular time, mostly during twice in a day, they revisit the same location. So there they pick up all the information which is available on the ground, rather photograph the entire information, and based on analysis of that information, one can identify which are the trees, which are the targets, which are the terrorist outfits, so on and so forth.
The development of reconnaissance satellites was officially demanded by the United States Air Force on 16 March 1955. The main reason was to have a continuous surveillance of some areas to determine weapons-making capabilities of potential enemies. The first generation spy satellites were Corona and Zenith. The Corona was a US military spy satellite system used for photographic surveillance of China, the Soviet Union, and other areas between June 1959 to May 1972. It was operated by the CIA Directorate of Science and Technology along with the US Air Force. The Zenith program was a successive launch of military spy satellites between 1961 and 1994 by the Soviet Union. Before digital imaging systems, reconnaissance satellites sent photographs via canisters. A canister containing a film roll was ejected with a parachute, and a pilot intercepted the package before it reached the ground. Now, with the transition in technology, spacecrafts employ digital imaging systems and the images are downloaded via encrypted radio links. The Gaofen 4 is the world's most powerful geospy satellite. It has a color image resolution of slightly less than 50 meters and a thermal imaging resolution of 400 meters. Its range of view is a 7,000 km by 7,000 km box of 49 million square kilometers of Asian land and water in and around China. It allows China to monitor strategic foreign sites and naval bases inside its observation box. The newest US spy satellites can also distinguish objects less than 10 centimeters across. This is less than the length of some smartphones and sharp enough to zoom in on someone's head. Since their introduction, military satellites have become a critical part of national security in many countries. Advances in satellite technology has allowed better and cheaper military satellites nowadays. This has enabled smaller countries also to take advantage of satellite technology. These satellites are now so small that they are referred to as laptops in space platforms. They cost less than $1 million and add functionality to existing satellite networks. Another trend in modern military technology is an increase in cooperation between countries. Cooperative pooling of resources among nations to launch joint commercial ventures has become common. There are about 3,700 artificial satellites orbiting the Earth. 50% have been used for military purposes at some point in their lifespan. Currently, only about 1,100 of these are active. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
India shares borders with 7 countries, stretching for over 15,000 kilometers on land and more than 7,500 kilometers of coastline. Although India has major challenges to manage its borders with Pakistan and China, keeping an eye on its other borders is also important. To have all-terrain, all-weather, continuous monitoring of these borders, India needs constant support from satellites. In our next report, we look at some of India's satellites developed exclusively for defense purposes.
In a special mission later this month, ISRO will launch an electronic intelligence satellite Vsat for the Defense Research and Development Organization, the DRDO. The Advanced Electronic Intelligence Satellite is a low-cost alternative which is under development for nearly 8 years. Vsat is designed to intercept directed microwave transmissions. Another use is to determine the location of ground and naval radar emitters and command nodes. While a single Vsat will be able to determine the probable location of radio emitter, a cluster of Vsats could mimic functions of a large satellite by sharing, processing, communication and mission functions at a fraction of the cost. Earlier this year, ISRO launched Microsat-R for the DRDO. Microsat-R is an imaging satellite meant for military purposes, but ISRO has not given out any details about it. India's first exclusive defense satellite GSAT-7 was launched in 2013. GSAT-7 was designed to provide communication capabilities over a wide oceanic region, including the Indian landmass. It helped in marine communications and helped the Navy in providing real-time inputs to Indian vessels. It also helped in monitoring Chinese activity in the Indian Ocean. Custom-made for the Navy by ISRO, the advanced multi-band state-of-the-art GSAT-7 provided wide range of services for over 5 years.
Satellite technology which is very important is that your modern day military platforms are controlled by satellites. So you can have a fighter aircraft, but if you want to do a accurate targeting, you require the assistance of a satellite only. So when you talk of a 3rd generation, 4th generation or a 5th generation fighter aircrafts or other military platforms, even submarine platforms also, you require a real-time assistance from the satellites. Hence now it has become very clear that you just can't have a modern day military platform and not to have a satellite.
Last year in December, ISRO successfully launched its second advanced defense satellite exclusively for the Indian Air Force called the GSAT-7A. Dubbed the Angry Bird, the satellite allows the Indian Air Force to interlink different ground radar stations, ground air base and airborne early warning and control aircraft. It also facilitates exclusive frequency flight communication for the Indian Air Force. The mission life of GSAT-7A is 8 years, and it will provide communication in Ku band over the Indian region. The first dedicated military satellite, Cartosat-2A, was launched in April 2008, followed by Cartosat-2B in July 2010. Cartosat-2A was the first dual-use satellite with capabilities of monitoring missile launches in India's neighborhood.
India has got a dual-purpose satellites. The Cartosat series of satellites, then you got a hyperspectral satellite, and there are a few microsatellites which are also being used. So you use your available satellites for all purposes. So you can have a satellite which can give you the weather inputs also, at the same time it can give you certain other assistance also. If you really look at satellites being used in warfare, they have been used for various purposes. One is for communication, other is for your navigation, third is for reconnaissance. Then your weather satellites also give you weather information, which is also very essential as far as warfare is concerned. There are a few other satellites which gives you information which is associated with picking up of electronically generated information. That means the ELINT and signal intelligence. So these sorts of intelligence informations also can be given by satellite.
In its upcoming missions, ISRO will launch Vsat-2A, which will boost India's surveillance technology. The satellite will carry a sophisticated radar, which will help in the observation of an area, irrespective of low light and weather conditions. It is currently under the control of National Technical Research Organization.
Any intruder aircraft or UAV or any missile which is coming in, these satellites will be able to pick it up. So right from the source, once they start off, because we will, from these satellites, we can dominate all our area of interest. So even if from the enemy territory, the moment the satellite takes off, and if it is heading towards India, we will be able to pick it up as to where the satellite is. And this kind of facility is available only in 4 countries. We are the 4th country now. After USA, Russia and China, we are the 4th country who has this kind of capability and such extensive network of military satellites.
The Indian Armed Forces is expected to remain prepared to handle asymmetric threats as well as conventional and nuclear warfare scenarios. In addition, there is significant dependence on military forces for disaster response management. Space is an important domain that can assist India's armed forces to address all of these challenges. At present, India has over 13 satellites which can be used for surveillance and mapping border areas and are primarily used for keeping an eye on enemies on both land and sea. But there is a clear need for India to increase its investment in the military satellite arena. More importantly, India needs to invest in systems beyond navigation and communications and expand its existing infrastructure and add signals intelligence satellites as well. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a short break on the program, but when we return, we tell you about the countries that use military satellites. Do stay with us.
देखिए विशेष मेरे साथ आज शाम 7:30 बजे सिर्फ राज्यसभा टीवी पर।
Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I am Vishal Dahiya, and this week we will talk about the assault rifle AK-203.
AK-203 is the latest model. It's being inducted into Russian army also simultaneously. So it's actually a design of the future.
When it comes to counterinsurgency and whatever we have discussed, I think this is a very fantastic choice. It also comes cheaper.
We are looking at a kill, and I think this weapon with 7.62 caliber is going to achieve that kill.
घटम, प्राचीन दक्षिण भारतीय ताल वाद्य। जब बजता है तो सृष्टि के 5 तत्वों धरा, जल, वायु, अग्नि और आकाश के स्वर को इसकी धुन में किया जा सकता है महसूस। घटम पर उंगलियों और हथेली के थाप से उत्पन्न हुई स्वर तरंग पैदा करती है अद्भुत ताल।
Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. Military satellites are mostly used for communication, navigation, and intelligence gathering. Some of them were also developed for early warning of approaching missiles. Our next report takes a look at some of the military spy satellites possessed by other countries and how they help in surveillance, reconnaissance, communications, navigation, as well as missile warning.
The US Navy used the first navigation satellite in 1960. By 2013, the Earth's orbit had 950 satellites of different types. The first military satellites were photographic reconnaissance missions. Modern spy satellites can today do more than taking pictures. It can collect telephone, radio, and internet signals, adding to the ways commanders can guess what's happening on the ground. However, the United States started the first formal military satellite programs. It began the Discoverer spy satellite program to watch how fast the Soviet Union was making missiles and where it was sending them. The US has 123 military satellites. The first formal military satellite projects were launched in the US in 1950s. The first project was known as Weapons System 117L. The initial satellites were named Discoverer and were used to observe the Earth and take pictures. On February 28, 1959, the first satellite, Discoverer 1, was launched. Discoverer 4, the first US camera-carrying satellite, launched in 1959 but didn't reach orbit. But Discoverer 14 went up in 1960 and returned photos. There have been several projects in the US including Corona, Canyon, Aquacade, Orion, Magnum, Trumpet, and Wideband Global Satcom. The satellite was built by Boeing and was the 9th to be launched as part of the 10-member satellite project by the US Air Force. The satellites are to be used for communication. Intelsat is a commercial satellite operator and is managed by the US military space units.
It started the development of spy satellite network with a program called Corona during 1958. Subsequently, erstwhile USSR also had their own programs. And in recent times, particularly in Asia, Japan has started developing a spy satellite network essentially to address the threat from North Korea.
Russia owns 74 military satellites. Russia, under the Soviet Union, started a military space station program in 1960s. The program was known as Almaz and was keen on using space stations instead of satellites. The program was active as from 1973 to 1976 with 3 stations established named Salyut 2, 3 and Salyut 5. On March 16, 1962, Russia launched its first satellite named Cosmos 1. On December 2, 2017, Russia launched its satellite to detect, track and destroy missiles attacking the country. The satellite will also warn the government of attacking missiles. The satellite is named Cosmos 2524. China has 68 satellites for military use. The Chinese space program dates back to 1950s. The military-operated satellites are named Yaogan. Yaogan 30D, 30E and 30F were launched on November 24, 2017. The 3 are said to be experimental and are to be used for intelligence gathering. The Microsatellite Research Institute constructed the satellites. The Yaogan satellites are thought to be small, to contain sharper sensors and be able to survey at lower altitudes. China's Gaofen 4 constantly stay above a patch of Earth, thus providing constant 24-hour surveillance of a geographic area. It is the world's most powerful geospy satellite. Other countries like France, UK, Germany, Israel, and Japan own less than 10 military satellites. Due to secrecy and some having GPS satellite serving both military and civilian use, it is difficult to know the exact number of military satellites. The number is increasing yearly, and with new technology, newer satellites can collect more information and perform more functions.
So all the countries which are having various types of threats, they definitely make investments. Whenever they are making investments into military technologies, they are also making investments into satellite technologies also. Other aspect of a satellite technology which is very important is that your modern day military platforms are controlled by satellites. So you can have a fighter aircraft, but if you want to do a accurate targeting, you require the assistance of a satellite only. So when you talk of a third generation, fourth generation or a fifth generation fighter aircrafts or other military platforms, even submarine platforms also, you require a real-time assistance from the satellites.
Space is an integral component of US military planning. A sure sign of its essential nature can be found in the dozens of satellites from the United States and its international coalition partners that supported military campaigns in Iraq in 2003, the Afghanistan in 2001 and Yugoslavia in 1999. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So that's it from us in today's edition of In Depth. We'll be back same time tomorrow with a comprehensive view on some other subject. You can also watch our episodes online on YouTube and Twitter and send your feedback and suggestions. Thank you very much for your time.